seen work from any of the people that, and
Yeah,
what do you think about
I
it?
love it.
Yeah.
Watch your study more week.
What was that?
What I do.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that other people actually know who these photographers are.
Does everybody, so how many people didn't know any of those? Really? Is that because you just started in photography or just, oh, okay, well, fair enough, fair enough. So what do you think about today's photographers? As in black and white photographers that you know? Do you know?
It's easier.
It's easier? Yeah.
Like in the dark room, you don't know what you're going to get. You sort of put it under, you go into the bird, and you take your photo, you wait for people to come back now, and
You've got Photoshop that you can pretty much do whatever you want. And what do you think about people manipulating photographs to a large degree rather than just, you know, the good old dodging and burning that we used to do in the old film days?
It's a good question because we're open to things like Photoshop and stuff now, everything's digital. So why shouldn't you use your creative nature to create something else with the capabilities that all the programs give you? You know, and if you think about it, the image has to be good anyway to begin with, and then you can, filters on it or whatever. And I don't think there's anything. I don't know about you. I don't think there's anything wrong with it because it is the new darkroom of.
There is nothing wrong with it, and that's the whole point. I mean, it's all about what you want to show the world, or just yourself, really. So who's, whatever you do, it's all subjective anyway. What I've shown you, I mean, people may love the stuff, people may not love the stuff. It's a whole, I mean, I personally love all of these photographer artists. But then some of the work I don't love. So it's not all of the work that I love. So people share that same thing, or what do you have? So do you have any favourites that I haven't kind of covered that you would...
Vivian Meyer.
What?
Court cases on it.
Sorry?
Vivian Meyer's court cases on it for the copyright for all the images that they found.
Who is this?
Vivian Meyer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they found all the suitcases of her negatives.
They're amazing.
She wasn't a professional photographer, she was a nanny, but wow,
Oh, really?
stuff and herself portraits are absolutely inspiring.
Oh, incredible. Incredible. And who else?
No, I haven't seen the books. Yeah, I've just been following Ted Books. He's been, that's what I was.
And has anybody heard, we were just discussing the guy, who is that? Apparently he sold, an Australian that apparently sold his photographs
Oh, Peter
$1
Lee.
million.
Yeah, Peter Lee.
Peter Nick, I
Yeah,
thought it was
Peter Lee,
Philip.
yeah.
Yes.
Some of his stuff's really good.
Some of his stuff is really good, but do you think he's actually
Some of
sold
it's
something?
a bit odd.
Yeah. Is everybody aware of him? Sorry? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But has anybody seen his other work apart from that beautiful shot?
The big prints he does.
The
The big
humongous
landscape,
yes.
huge on the middle.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
So what I'm asking you the questions now. What is it you like about black and white photography, if you do like black and white photography at all?
Is there anybody here that actually doesn't like black and white photography?
Does anybody not like it?
Not that you're scared to say.
You're allowed to. You're not allowed to.
Say it, really.
You don't have to.
You really don't like it?
No, I like it.
Oh, sorry, I thought you put your hand up because you're the only one that doesn't.
Painting, when you start off with painting and drawing in monochrome, you're looking at tone without the complication of tone. So to me, it's fairly similar medium to, as being a painter, you're looking at tone, shape, form.
So what do you think about looking
I
at
love
that?
it. Yeah.
Sorry?
I
So
love
you're a painter as well?
I used to be, now I'm taking up camera.
Okay, fair enough. But what do you think about painting and photography? They used to say that as soon as photography started, painting would die. Hasn't happened?
Into painting.
Exactly
So
right.
it's become art schools now don't do representational painting so much as abstract express yourself, be your inner crazy person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Sorry.
Yep, I heard a saying the other day that taking a photo in colour, you're taking basically the colour of what they're wearing, their clothes and everything. taking a colour in black and white, you're taking their soul.
That is a good saying, because that is it, isn't it? Because you take, colour is so powerful. You take that away, and what are you left with? You're left with form, texture, light, dark. That's what you're left with, and that's what makes such things so powerful.
I think it's a little bit like when you're reading a book that doesn't have pictures, you build the pictures in your mind. And when you've got black and white, sometimes you can see the colour in it because you use your own imagination.
That's right, that's right. So how would you shoot? Would you prefer to shoot something through your camera in monochrome, or would you prefer, like, now that you can, you couldn't before, but now that you can with digital cameras, or would you prefer to just see the scene in colour, as you would, and shoot in RAW, and think about it in your mind, in black and white? What would be your preference? I'm just eager to find out.
Does everybody get the question?
Do you understand the question?
I shoot in
Sorry?
RAW every day.
Yeah, either shoot black and, Ginny's saying shoot in black and white and take it as it is,
Yeah,
or
I'm
shoot
saying
it in
more
colour,
you-
think
you've
about
got
how
the
it's
colour.
going to look in black and white, so actually.
Yeah, do you
before
actually
adjust
think about?
colour
Once
and
you've got the
shade.
colour,
Yeah,
you
colour
can
and
produce a
texture.
variation of black and white images.
Sorry, I missed
But
that.
when you shoot, do you think this will make a great black and white shot, or this will make a great colour shot, and I think I'll also try the black and white version and desaturate it, or turn it to black and sky? Have you physically gone out and thought in black and white, in shades of grey?
When you say no
Yeah.
wagon wheels and wagons and stuff like
Yeah.
that, black and white every time.
What about, have you tried shooting a very colourful scene in black and white, thinking of it in black and white?
I really like the modern cameras where you can actually shoot in colour and have your artifacts at the same time, so that you can, I'll often take a number of shots in colour, just snaps, and then I think, oh no, this one, I'll take brackets, so I'll have
Yes.
the colour and the black and white at the same,
Yeah,
At the
and
same time.
you can see the
and you can
difference.
see the,
Yeah.
and
Within the camera, or do you
Yeah.
then go
No, it's in the-
post-production and
I don't know.
post-processing?
So always
What do you
take
use?
3 shots, one colour, one monochrome, and one grainy film, black and white. which is
Okay,
the
so
main
how do you
one.
take the grainy film? Do you change your ISO, or what do you do?
No, it's just a.
It's just the, oh, it's a
setting
setting,
in
is
the
it?
camera itself.
Okay.
So you can have the, all you do
You
is,
must have a good camera.
you just pick the 3 different settings, bang, 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 3 shots.
Yeah.
And you just throw the colour away.
Do you personally prefer to post-crop in black and white, or you use the camera for black and white?
That's, for me personally,
Yeah.
I prefer to see the shot in the camera. Because that, I already have an idea of what it's going to look like, or what I think it's going to look like. Okay? And what I see is not necessarily what the final print will end being, and that's only a personal preference. I usually, it's not preconceived, it's not a preconceived idea I have when I go out, but I know that if I go out shooting in black and white, then my mindset is set to black and white. If I go out shooting in colour, my mindset is set to colour. And the two, it took me a long time to learn to do that. Now I know, let's say you're looking at a scene and I'm thinking, oh, that yellow is going to represent this kind of shade, and looking at that red is going to be that kind of shade. And that's the type of thing that with practice, we're looking at black and white, and specifically practice shooting yellows and shooting reds and shooting greens and shooting blues, and then turning them into black and whites, seeing what different shades you have. But also these days with Photoshop and Lightroom and everything else, you also have a lot of leeway into changing those shades into darker, lighter shades of whatever it is you have. And that's what I suggest doing, because really, I think, was it Ansel Adams in one of the things I put there? The art is in here. It's not in your camera. It's here. And whatever pleases you is fine. It doesn't have to please anybody else. It just pleases you. And I think, so whatever you want to do to a photograph, whether you want to manipulate it to the 100th degree, it's your personal preference. And that's the beauty of art, or photography, or anything, or even painting. Any form of art. So, but black and white for me is just fantastic, because it makes me think, and look at a picture, look at it twice, and 3 times, and just you know, rather than this, you know, skimming over it when it's just colour. So black and white happens to be my favourite, but we all have our preferences, and I may be talking out of the back of my head, which I usually am, by the way.
There wasn't some black and white images and you say, gee, wouldn't they come as well as the colour print?
Oh, yes.
You know, like, that was taken, like, 30s, I think, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, 1932,
Yeah.
that's right.
And then, how, but
He didn't have a choice, he had to shoot in black and white.
yeah. Like the steps by when pristine, beautiful marble, the handrail could be a bright red. And,
You're right, but as far as I know, and please, as far as I know, Henry Cartier-Bresson never shot in colour, but I could be wrong. Does anybody know whether it did? But he stuck to black and white throughout his life, even though colour was available. And I think, I know Ansel Adams shot in colour, his beautiful landscapes. But Henry Cartier-Bresson and Edward Weston, which you also saw, never picked up colour film at all. They just shot basically throughout their lives in black and white because that's what they loved and that's what they saw. Obviously some in colour, but whatever it is they wanted to represent in black and white, and that's what's done.
Were they seen actually in colour or channel variation?
Sorry?
Do you think they saw in colour or channel variation?
Oh, I think these people saw in shades of grey. They were just too masterful at their craft to be able to. I think you know, after a while, after practice, you'll do it yourselves.
So I think when we first started doing photography, we were always doing black and white.
That's
So we
right.
learned what the colours became as
That's
tones.
correct.
So when you know that, then when you're taking a colour shot, you know how to, you're still doing that because you want to make sure that those colours will stand out against each other. If they're all the same tone, and then you'll
Exactly. If they're the same tones, which if you saw this where am I going back? Which there you go. See how they're almost the same with the green and the red almost look the same, don't they? Turned as a grayscale. In that particular shade of
You can see the green touch, it's a little flower.
yeah, it's a little flower on top of a little bow tie. They're almost the same as the red. So even though they're different colours over here, they appear almost the same on the other side. And this is why it takes a lot of practice to be able to look at a scene and say, oh, that red's going to represent this. But as I said, with Photoshop now, not so much in the darkroom because that would be held. And I'm not an Ansel Adams that spent days trying to get the perfect print. But with Photoshop now, or Lightroom, or any other program that you use, you can manipulate things. You know, you can change that shade of red to make it lighter or darker or whatever it is, so you have a more appealing black and white image.
But a lot of that was done with filters and things. I mean, I can't imagine putting a red filter on the front of the camera and knowing that that's going to make that lighter and that darker.
I know,
Because they
but
have hundreds of
you could
different
do that
coloured
with
filters.
film. If you try to put a red filter in front of your digital camera, what happens? I think it turns out red.
But
But
do you think, I mean, they put filters on to say, well,
some of them
I want
filters
I want
on.
the sky darker, or I want the leaves lighter. Do you think in that as far as...
I don't know. Does anybody know whether Ansel ever used filters?
Yeah.
I'm not
If the
aware that he
clouds come
did.
out,
His-
his clouds you
Did he?
possibly did because the cloud filters made it.
Okay, but he used to have great big cameras. That must have been a great big filter he had. Because he used to lug around great big cameras in the beginning. And so did Margaret Burke-Wright and you know, they were all major 8-inch plates or and stuff like that. So, but I personally just ever use a filter as a polarizing filter. Who uses a polarizing filter? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I only have ever used a polarizing filter, and whatever I used to do in a darkroom, it was just basically dodging and burning. So dodging and burning. So that's the only filter, and I like the polarizing filter because it just accentuates the whites and makes them so much cleaner to me in a photograph, whether it be colour or black and white. And blues are deeper as well, so it's just wonderful. Does everybody use a polarizing filter here, or does anybody know how to, yeah? If I suggest one filter, that will be the filter that I suggest that people use, if you're into that, because it just gives it a bit more contrast, either to black and white or to a colour image. And with a polarizing filter, you actually have to swivel it around to get, it's like a polarizing effect, you have to swivel it around to get the right density or polarizing whatever it is through it. I'm not that technical, so I don't know.
A lot of polarizing filters now for digital cameras are full polarizing.
I'm sorry,
Right across the lens. You
Yeah.
don't generally split polarizing
oh, okay,
these days.
all right,
You can,
yeah,
but it's at a cost.
sure.
But there's a lot of
But they
filters
cost a
there
lot,
that we don't look at anymore because with digital photography you don't need them, but there's things like sky filters which will increase the colour of the blues in the sky, but they're very subtle.
But you also have
to
those
really
filters in
frustrate.
Photoshop and Lightroom and everything
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you would use, post-processing, is that what you use? Yeah.
Well, everybody used to use a UV filter, and everybody probably still should. But the only thing you use a UV filter now is if you drop your camera, you break the UV filter, you don't break the lens.
Yep. That's
There's lots of good filters about.
Any more questions? Because I've
one more.
I have one more question. Did you have any comment to make about the sort of light that you might be, looking? I imagine the way that light behaves for a black and white photo is going to be quite different to a colour photo.
Well, I suggest, and this is something that I did very early on, I went to the same scene at different times of day and just shot that scene at different times of day and grew to know what worked and what didn't work for me.
Okay.
And that's what I suggest doing. Just practice, practice, practice. You have the midday sun right on top of you. Everything is kind of flattened. You have side lighting. It accentuates texture. Okay. It gives you shadows that you can incorporate in your composition. And it's just different times of day. But even if you do like you're about to do, your setup tonight, change the area of the light and see what happens and see what you can create out of using the actual object and its reflective shadows, if you're getting.
We've got torches and stuff as well at a lot of the stations too. You've got to try them from top, side, and also look at the shadows that you get and stuff like that. So try a bit of everything. Don't just leave them where they are. So if you want to move them around as you're taking a shot, please do so because it's going to change the picture.
And also try a lot of things. Try shooting in inclement weather, when it's raining, when it's windy. You get this wonderful, and if you leave a long exposure during a windy day, the trees almost look surreal with all of that movement and stuff. It is brilliant. It is brilliant stuff. Just shoot with different times a day, different types of days. Not just sunny days or anything like that, because you can get some wonderful, wonderful shots, like Dorothy Lange and one of the Dorothy Lange's one. Didn't have a lot of contrast in it, but all those hues of shades of grey within those photos are just wonderful. So it's just a matter of what pleases you and how you want to go about it. Nothing is ever right and nothing is ever wrong.
Unless it's out of focus.
Unless it's out of focus. No, out of focus is good.
Well, it depends if it's not good.
Out of focus is good. So sorry about my stupid presentation there, but at least you got to see some of my favourite photographers. Any more?
And it's probably just to give you an idea, when you are shooting any because you're seeing in colour, unless you're colourblind, try and think of that shot, just try and think of that shot, how it would look in black and white before you actually even change it. You know what I mean? When you get back to your computer and stuff. Just try and have an idea of what shades you might actually use, especially if it's something really colourful. Okay.
Just one thing.
Sorry.
When I started doing a bit of black and white photography, one of the tips I always give is if you're going to change it to black and white, make sure you're a little bit of black in the scene, because it really does help to tie in and then
Contrast, that's right. Contrast between black and the white. I mean, with my photography, I usually try to include, unless I'm doing something that, is very flat lighting, but I usually try to include areas of black, pure black, or close to pure black, and areas of pure white. Now, I like no detail in these two areas, but a lot of people will just, I'll dance all at him and see, he had detail even in the dark sections of his photography. He was just brilliant. But I prefer a little bit more contrast in my photos. So yeah, but that's for me personal, and probably you as well.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong, You can have only 5 shades of grey in a photo. It doesn't matter. If it's pleasing enough, if it pleases you, it pleases you. That's it. So I'm not, there's no, as I said, there's no wrong. You can do no wrong unless you
That goes for all the.
unless you shoot out of other, or you cut people's heads off. Although there's a famous photographer, Lucien Hervé, I don't know if you've heard of him, and he has a wonderful shot in India of a boy against, actually I might have it here. Sorry, do you want to see it or? Okay.
Thanks, Jenny, for
Oh,
the
thank you.
presentation.